New season, huh? Here's the weather, if you're interested. Doing some laps in the same conditions. So let's head back to the start here. So obviously the last corner is pretty important for setting up your qualifying lap. Talk about it properly at the end. Good. Okay, so turn one. We briefly in fifth gear. Down to third. I'm braking sort of just after the 100, but before the end of the grass. And then you'll see, usually I'll be about sort of 50-60% brake, but here trying to maintain as much speed as possible while still rotating the car. So not braking as hard. And then sort of almost immediately down to the sort of trail braking percentages that you usually see. So here at the apex, just dropping completely off of the brake and then picking the throttle back up. Now this will depend a lot on your setup, how soon you can pick the throttle up and how well you can rotate the car to the apex. So picking the throttle up as early as you can, and then you want to get the car back over to the right. But at the same time, don't compromise yourself through turn one too much. So you're striking a balance between being able to get the car. You don't want to, basically, you don't want to be over here still trying to turn right as you're coming up the hill for the left, because you'll cost yourself time. And at the same time, you don't want to slow down so much for turn one to get all the way over to the right over here and cost yourself time through turn one. So somewhere in between that is the optimal line. Anyway, coming into turn two, this is really, really tricky because this is your view. So aiming just to the right of this tree is a pretty good reference point. So there's the final tree that's on its own, slightly to the right of that. That gives you that sort of apex curve of turn two, I would say. Track map agrees with me that this is turn two. So the reason you wanted to get over to the right is to straighten up this braking zone. So we're coming up over the hill, trying to keep the car straight-ish. We're obviously going to need to turn left. So because we're turning and braking, we don't want to be using full brake pressure. So we're sort of in the trail braking amount. And then as we finally finish this left-hander and start to head right, I'll probably squeeze the brake on a bit more. Usually just briefly there, trying to get the final bit of slowing down done. And then that will also help to kind of shift the weight forward and get the car rotating in the other direction. Turn three. Sorry, I'm forgetting gears again. So we'll be going down to second gear here. You can take a bit of the apex curve. Feel free to play around with this quite a bit because it's not a slowdown. You get a 1x. So you can actually, even in the race, don't be too afraid to attack this apex. And doing so helps you because we've got basically the same situation as we have turn one and two in a sort of shorter version here, which is turn three and four, where you're going to want to get back to the right to improve the lap time or your corner speed through the left. There's another complex corner. So instead of tracking all the way out to that curb, I'm overturning or not using all the track to help set up this left-hander. And then this just needs a little lift just to help rotate in the middle of the corner and then back onto the throttle. And then we're going down the S's, none of which count as corners apparently. So getting over to the left, this is a little bit more curb to curb, kind of standard stuff. So third gear, actually that's a lie. I'm in third gear here and then I shift up to fourth. So fourth gear and then off the throttle to help with the rotation. Full throttle all the way down to turn 5. I like to climb this curb. You may not have very consistent results doing so. But I personally like to do it. So we're not braking very hard because we're turning while we're braking. And then as I drop off of the curb and I'm kind of going straight briefly, I've increased brake pressure slightly. And then full throttle. I'm back down to third. I've shifted back down to third at some point. It's there. And then this exit curb is a bit of a conundrum, really. You can use it. You can go all the way out into the other alternate layout, and you don't get a 1x, but kind of compromise your drive off of the corner because you're bouncing around all over the place. So sometimes you can run wide and your lap time doesn't suffer, and other times it will. So you're looking for consistency, I would recommend kind of using the first part or the first two. You can see the kind of two different parts like of the curb. I would recommend using those, but not going beyond that. But again, if it's working for you, go for it. Right, so from this point on, the track's pretty kind of standard stuff. We're coming down into turn 6. Braking. Now I use this line as a reference, even though I'm not actually braking on it. I just kind of have a feel for how close to the line I am, which you'll be able to see from the onboard at the start of the video. But I don't know. It's hard to. There's not a very good reference, but that's what I use. Down to second. And then getting right out to the outside here, up onto the curb. I leave it in second. You may be able to get away with first. But as I always say, if you go down to first, then you've got to shift back up to second again. So if you're new to the car, it might be better just to leave it in second, lose a tenth, but eliminate those two shifts. So the aim here is obviously we're going onto a long straight. So you want to brake quite late, turn the car, rotate the car quite quickly, and then get back on the throttle and straighten up the exit and carry as much speed as you can down the straight. So because that's the goal, we're not really concerned with getting through the corner as fast as physically possible and smashing over the curbs. We want to keep the car stable and in control, so we're not hitting the apex curb. And then we can use the exit curb because it's not too bumpy. You can accelerate over it with no problem. Just obviously be very careful not to end up in the grass because you'll get fired either that way or that way, depending on whether you manage to get two wheels in it or just the rear wheel. Okay, so braking for the chicane. One thing to be aware of is if you're being passed by a Nissan on your inside, so you're over here somewhere, or even maybe there's two Nissans and you're really out to the left, you will struggle to make this turn. So just have that in the back of your mind. If you're way offline, this isn't flat anymore. But 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be completely flat out through there. Probably the best thing to do to avoid that situation would be to, I don't know if I want to recommend this or not, but get yourself over to the right, but don't come off of the previous corner and then chop over to the right. Come off the corner as normal, stay left, let any Nissans that are behind you pass, then move over to the right when there's nothing behind you. If there's a constant stream of Nissans, you're not going to be able to make your way across, so don't force your way over to the right. But if it's available, do it, because then the Nissans will go around your outside, which is much, much better for you and not a problem at all for them. There we go. Braking at the 150, imaginary 150, down to second gear. This chicane is all about consistently cutting this apex without racking up 1x's. Can cut it. I'm pretty sure this was a clean lap. So you can, I would imagine the off track is center line of the car to the left of the back edge of the curb. So here I'm actually kind of close to the limit. You can go a little bit further. And again, like we were talking about earlier, this is a compromise. So you don't want to go flying into, I think this is turn 10, with way too much speed and end up all the way over here, then trying to turn right. So you want to slow the car down kind of conservatively and even brake a little bit earlier than you need to, just to make sure you've got the speed washed off. Stay left and then set up this right-hander up the hill. So you can cut this curb a little bit too, but the problem with that is if you hit this grass too much, it will unsettle you a bit and ruin your exit. You may even have to lift just to make sure you don't go off the track on the left here. But I got away with it this time. So full throttle here. Again, if you're running wide, this is pretty dangerous if you do get on the grass here, because you've got some nice solid concrete walls either side to hit. So might be worth saving yourself, just backing out of it if you have got the chicane a little bit wrong. Then coming up over the crest, not really a corner, but again, if a Nissan is making his way through on the inside here, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. So you'll either have to lift. I wouldn't recommend forcing them to go to your left, because you'll still be in a bit of trouble. The best thing to do is hope they wait. I know hope isn't really a good thing to do, but it's your best option, is hope they wait till about here and then make their way through on the inside. If you try and last minute give them some room, you're probably going to end up in the grass on the outside. Another thing to note is that you will get a little bit of wheel spin over the crest, which will aid your understeer. So you want to kind of account for that and turn in a little bit more, and then you'll drift wide. So just got to get a feel for that with a bit of practice. And then we're aiming for this, where the curb ends, where the white line starts, that's your sort of turn-in point. From up here, you're looking at that, head right for it, and then turn in when you get there. And then for me, this is a big lift. Tiny little bit of brake there, just at the initial point, just to get some extra rotation. And then once you feel like you've got the car rotated enough, back on the throttle. So on your qualifying lap, you probably want to come down the hill kind of a bit slower and maybe stay out left a bit longer and then cut back in and be full throttle. So because you don't need to worry about the time lost from like here down to where you're turning in, you can really set yourself up for the qualifying lap. Alright, that's a lap of Road Atlanta.